Ми знаємо, що, на моє глибоке переконання, Ківалов...
But I am convinced that Kivalov is the personification of not just an old corrupt system, but he is the personification of possible revanche of the forces. And you see the billboards of Oleksandr Vilkul. Myself, as a journalist, I'm concerned with certain facts that could be then later used in the court. Now talking about the general or internal political situation, which develops in such a way that there might be the revanche of those people who we believe disappeared after the 22nd of February last year. So, basically, the list of voters are getting reformatted, their numbers go up. Basically, Kivalov lived in the palace. Something allowed him to use that territory same way. Now they see that the time is changing and they are trying to get legitimized in local authorities. They're trying to create majority, even in Zatoka. The investors will tell you about how much they invested and what happened there. And this all leads to some international incidents because of such non-hidden violations of legislation on elections of Ukraine. The ambassador of Estonia said that he's very much concerned with this situation because in European countries usually the interests of the citizens are protected as well as the interests of the business. Yesterday I published a letter in Ukrainska Pravda and it's that we tell Estonian businessmen that in Ukraine the democracy is developing and that authorities are helping the business, and what we see how the 90s are getting back when Kivalov with some people with different nicknames like Maga Sport, they are trying to seize the power in the city, which, if it is developed, will give an awful, a huge profit. So now I would like to give the floor to people who will tell you in detail about Zatoka, what they managed to do, and they will tell on how those people who I mentioned are trying to push them out of Zatoka. Good afternoon. I am managing Ukrainian investment project of Estonian project FTT Ukraine. In Zatoka we decided to start investing from 2013. We saw a big potential of this city, of this town. This is have social project for us. We see that we need to work long there to receive some profit, but there is big potential, and we've been working there. So in 2013, this year we saw some criminal resistance from the Party of Regions back in 2013, and we could not continue that project. There was administrative pressure exercised, and there were attacks on our people made after the revolution. In 2014, the situation has temporarily stabilized, and this year, in the beginning of the year, we made the decision to start implementing our project, and we started the construction of the seawalk. And the project received big support at all the levels of the authorities and the citizens of Ukraine, citizens of Zatoka. But before the elections this year, the people from the former Party of Regions started committing crimes. They are trying to get Zatoka into their power, and if this continues, then we will not be able to continue developing our projects. After all this progress, after all we saw after the revolution, and after Saakashvili started working there, we saw a lot of progress, and it looked like Ukraine started moving in the right direction. But now if you fail to stop all that, then we will go back and this will be a disaster for us. I believe that our partner will talk about that in detail. The political leadership has become quite obvious, and there's a lot of, and we can see that elections could be falsified. Our position is clear. And the embassy of Estonia, they are supporting us. Should I read the letter? It's in Ukrainian. If you have any questions, we will answer them later. Pogorelyi Oleksandr, the director of the Law Association Pryvilegiya. In 2011, I was one of the initiators of creating the communal enterprise Zatoka, and I headed it as a director. At that time, I was a businessman, and I was in development business, but I tried to work as a communal worker, because I saw the good perspective of Zatoka. Even before Crimea was annexed, Zatoka was receiving about 1 million of people in summertime, but it was at the level of 1970s. But in 2011, everything was just obsolete. In 2013, after several attempts to find investor for Zatoka, my company signed an agreement with local authorities in order to find investor. Also, we signed agreement with by association Pryvilegiya, so that everything that was done till 2013 could be, all the problems could be resolved, because the main condition for getting investments was transparency. Starting from 2013, we saw a big resistance from criminal elements and the representatives of the Party of Regions, but we started implementing the projects in Zatoka, like building the seafront, building the water channel, but everything stopped at the stage of documents. And that was because one of the reasons was the situation in the country. The military action started, and it was difficult for investor to make a decision to start investing when the country was in the state of war. But starting from 2015, when the situation started to get stabilized, the decision was made to invest big money into Zatoka, because we saw the perspective, and we knew that Crimea was annexed. The investments, there's a plan of investments for several years. One of the projects that we started to implement was construction of a seafront. This will be the longest seafront in Europe. It will be 12.2 kilometers. This year we built the first kilometer. Mr. Saakashvili was present at opening the seafront. His position as to supporting European investments, and his idea that one of the priorities for Odesa region is developing tourism are very encouraging. Also, the ambassador of Estonia was present, the Minister of Environment was present, the businessman from Tallinn arrived, and we hoped that we will not be faced what any businessmen were facing during the previous 24 years. But the reality was different. Back in 2013, in Femida base, there were students registered. The students were registered, and the problems with that was Femida base is the hotel. You can see it if you go to the website. It's the hotel where people stay. This is not a house, not a hostel, not a residential house. So when we started examining the document, we found out that there were agreements on lease signed with the students, and basically, and the students were registered as residing in this place. Someone was getting ready and was planning to use the votes of the students to participate in the elections. I can comment on what was published in mass media. Mr. Kivalov published a certificate of migration service that said that in 2014-2015 not a single student was registered in Femida base, but they do not mention the fact that they were registered in 2013 and they are still the students of his academy. And if you look at the list of the voters of the Zatoka settlement, then the address Lazurная 77 is a separate constituency where 271 voters are registered, and all these voters are the students of Odesa National Academy. Before that, 600, 700, 800 people would participated in elections. If 271 voters vote, that will mean that he wins. The previous mayor was getting 200, 250 votes and was winning the elections. Even with this situation, we could have been fighting this situation, but basically, besides having 270 people in Femida, registered in Femida, now, starting from August 1, 2015, this started like an epidemic of getting registered. Once a day, the migration service receives an application, 15, 20, 40 applications and passports with a population of 1,100 people. 50 registered citizens means 5% of votes. You understand that 10% of 5% of votes is very serious for falsification. Once we are talking about falsification of elections, I would like to apply Article 160 of the Criminal Code of Ukraine, where there's responsibility for buying the voters, bribing the voters, and all this registration. It doesn't mean that there are so many citizens who decided to go there and participate in elections. But basically, people receive from $50 to $100. The owner of apartment who allows to get someone registered is offered $300, $500, but basically some local citizens are walking around the streets, now those who need money, and they offer the addresses to get people registered. I will not say that all people who are registered there, who are trying to get registered, that they really related to Odesa National Academy or to Femida base, but I can say that many people are doing that. I can say that the allies of former mayor Madam Yartseva are doing it. The allies of the current mayor Zvyagintsev are also getting registered people. So, and I say that maybe we will get 10 or 15,000 people registered. What's the difference? To get 70 persons registered in one room apartment to 1,000 persons. If they're trying to seize Zatoka this way, our objective is to stop this raidership and get it back to what we had. So that 1,100 people could come to elections and make decisions independently, not under pressure. So basically what's happening, the Femida base is a building which is not a hostel, where there are more people registered than they have beds. They don't have conditions for people to live there all year round, and it has been proven that the students have never basically stayed there. We have all the evidence, all the proof, the guest book of the hotel. You can see how many people lived there or stayed there. And now we have some students who recognize that they have not been living there. Thank God not all the students of the academy are supporting the position that is imposed on them. Talking about apartments, and we also have confessions of people that people were getting 500, 400 hryvnias. You can take just 40 persons, people who receive low salaries, who have low profit. You can invite them to talk with the investigator and invite the owner of an apartment and ask them questions. Have you seen these people before? Do you know each other? Why have you been offered to do that? And then give them to read Article 160, where the punishment is 7 or imprisonment. The sentence is 7 years of imprisonment and more. And basically, they will realize that they have become the victims of fraud. And despite that this problem was outlined in mass media, Mr. Saakashvili talked about that. The head of Odesa regional department of the Ministry of Interior was also talking about that. The mass media are writing that the Ministry of Interior stopped massive registration. They stopped falsification of elections. But unfortunately, this did not happen. If you go to the Territorial Commission and if you ask how many voters are there, you will find out that there are about 1,800 there, and you will understand that the elections will take place according to this scenario that was planned, and it's very difficult to stop it. The only way is not even criminal cases. Criminal cases, it should be open to punish those who were organizing it, but the objective is not to allow falsified the elections. The mechanism is the appeals to the court, though the cases which should be filed to the court. Some of these cases were already filed. There is also case against the Odesa National Law Academy, and the third person is Zatoka Settlement Municipal Election Commission, but basically the case is the following. All persons who were submitting for registration in the period from the 1st of August 2015 till today, if there is a proof that such registration is fictitious, they should be their registration should be cancelled. How can you prove that they cannot be registered in a certain place? There is such a term, generally known circumstances. In this case, if we look at the technical passport of the apartment, we see that there are only 25 square meters of residential area, and the Migration Service registered 27 persons there. We understand that such people cannot live together in this room. The law on elections says that a person can be a voter if a person is registered and resides on this territory. But for the registration to become really effective, the person has to move to this apartment. First, the person should move to the apartment and then get registered. If the person is just registered but does not live there, that means that the registration is falsified. On Saturday, the militia men seized the documents which were basis for getting registered. Half an hour after militia leaves, they receive 30 more applications and passports. This process can be endless if the investigator does not make a ruling that the registration is prohibited till the end of elections. You can get registered any number of people. The registration service says They just receive the documents and they react to the documents and they do not look into details. I would like to draw attention of the journalists and the public. This, besides fighting with virus registration, we need to look at how to cancel registration of 293 students of Odesa National Academy. There's evidence that I mentioned. It is important for this judicial process to take place on time. We understand that the Law Academy and other persons will be delaying this process, and hope that the court will make a ruling in the shortest possible term. The nearest sitting of the court will take place on the 8th of October, which is tomorrow. If this ruling is made tomorrow, then there are 10 days to submit the appeal, and there's some time to consider appeal. Now the situation is such that if we allow do what's happening now, then the elections will be falsified. Lawyers understand. The appeal will be submitted and so on, and we lose time and we lose the situation. I believe this is not the issue of for the investor or the lawyer. We initiated these processes and we submitted the statements to the Central Election Commission. We addressed the ambassadors, but that is the issue for the president, for his representative, Mr. Saakashvili. That's for the prosecutor's office also, because this is an awful situation. There have never been such precedents before, because Zatoka is a unique place, talking about its potential, but nevertheless. So that is if we explain the situation which is now. So, and in the end, it is really important for the court to immediately consider these cases so that it passes the correct ruling. And it is important that authorities help protect the interests of European investors, because even now we receive some proposals from future owners of this settlement. They say, let's get some agreement. Talking about the first part, that's it. And the second one, I would like to spend 3 minutes to show what have investors done this season to understand why it is important for the country. Zatoka has received 1.5 million people. Odesa was receiving 1 million people. Zatoka potentially can receive people from the 1st of May till the 30th of September, and the total number of tourists could be about 2.5–3 million people. In the peak of the season, there are 150,000 people living there, staying there. Geographically, it's 12 kilometers of the beach. The season, other side, I don't remember that, but they say that 5 kilometers away from Zatoka in Soviet times there was an orange. There were orange trees there. All these factors are the reason why investors decided to invest money there. If you visited Zatoka, if you were there before, you should understand that Zatoka has no infrastructure, has no water, no sewage, no service. There's nothing there. There's sun there, there's sea there, there's sand there. And the slogan that we invented is the positive of every sandstone. But it was very dirty and not safe in Zatoka. Starting thinking about Zatoka, we started thinking about how to develop the hotels, restaurants, entertainment, business, but we realized that nothing will work there unless we have infrastructure there. So the approach was of developers. We will create the orchard town there. We will first take water there, then plant trees and so on and so forth. And the project is about attracting tourists to Zatoka, to change the quality of services, to create unique proposals in Ukraine for tourists. We divided it into several parts. It should be comfortable for tourists. And we decided to construct this seafront, which was 12 kilometers long, it used to be 12 kilometers long. If, to put it shortly, talking about comfort, you can see it in the internet. The seafront is equipped with everything needed. It's very comfortable. It's 6 meters wide, and it's not a pavement. It is a quay or seafront. The second thing is cleanness. We purchased the special equipment for cleaning beaches. We invested more than 1.7 million hryvnias just for cleaning the beaches this year. To understand what it looked like last year, you can see what the beaches looked like last year. This year, the situation was different. Clean beaches is very important for tourists. You understand that it's clean where the place is cleaned. Another thing is safety. Unfortunately, the statistics was negative, talking about number of people who died in water. Previously, no one was doing it in Ukraine like we were. We put 20 rescue towers. We had 24 rescue men who were certified. Many TV channels were showing it. Our rescue men received many awards and lots of gratitude from people, because that is a rescue service which does not sell anything. Also, it should be quite entertaining in Zatoka. Several festivals came to us, those who wanted to organize them in Zatoka. Unfortunately, the conditions in Zatoka, talking about electricity, safety, toilets, are not good for festivals to be held without anyone else's assistance. We decided to create the festival platform center of the summer. And we have two large partners. One of them is Just Koktebel, which is Crimean festival that left Crimea, and we had it in Zatoka. And also another big event is sports and musical festival, Z Games. It attracted about 10,000 people. We were sponsors in Zatoka, and we helped implement this project. Also, I would like to say about what we did this year, talking about animation. Please turn on the video. Maybe in Turkey you saw these animation teams. We hired 42 animators, and they free of charge during all the summer, from 8 o'clock in the morning till late at night, were present at 12 kilometers of beaches. They played with children, with the adults. They were organizing evening dances, all classical set of animation services, which people can get in expensive hotels. But now the tourists were getting that free of charge. We were selecting those guys from all over the country. This project received the biggest feedback because the tourists were not used that they are getting entertained. We have 3 minutes left. One more video. What you see is a simple example of how we were promoting Zatoka this year. These are our seagulls. Zatoka. We had such event in Kiev, in Kharkov, in Dnipropetrovsk, in Lviv. In key regional centers, the seagulls would go and give business cards, and they were telling people that there is such a resort, they shouldn't go to Bulgaria, Romania, or Turkey. They were saying, come to us, it will be entertaining, clean, and safe. That is practically 4% of what we've been doing in Zatoka and what we are planning for the next year. But can investor make a decision about investments for the next year, which should be from 4 to 10 million euros next year, in case if they see such a falsification of elections? Do we have any objectives? Do we want to participate in elections? No. The decision to participate in elections was made recently, and it was made only not to allow falsification. The question that journalists asked me, who we supported the elections. We do not support anyone. We do not support anyone. We know what we are against. We are against what's happening now. This is our mission in elections. Thank you, Oleksandr. Now questions. The question to Sergiy. Very briefly, you mentioned that no one touches Kivalov. Why do you think so? Whose responsibility it is? What should be done to take him to responsibility? I believe I was asked this question in Odesa when we were there. On TV. I believe that the grounds for making Kivalov criminally responsible, there are many grounds for that. You can just take the fact of his, when he seized this palace, he exceeded the powers he got. It happened not yesterday. You saw the paintings and everything there. Why this doesn't happen? Probably we can, the same reason is that why Boyka isn't in prison, why Vilkel isn't in prison, who was bringing Titushki to Kiev, why Levachkin is not in the prison. And basically, if the prosecutor's office would work, then they could have been taken from the parliament and put to prison. Basically, that means that there is a very powerful sabotage of legality. Our state is not a legal state, a state of the rule of law. The General Prosecutor's Office cannot do anything. Even with those diamond prosecutors where everything has been proven. Yefremov, the person who opened the gate for Russian occupants in Lugansk region, visits elite spa centers in Podol, and some people from Lugansk, they live, they just stay with some people they know, and basically I am sad because law and politics should just go parallel to each other. The justice should execute its tasks and politicians their tasks. Especially Odesa is Ukrainian city. Every time you go to Odesa, you understand that. I believe that such falsifications, this is not the prerogative of the prosecutor's office. Spoiling international image of Ukraine, which is done on purpose, is a threat to the security of Ukraine. We improved our rating in investment climate or something, and I believe that this way will be going. We basically, inactivity of law enforcement system, Mikhail Saakashvili, he's supporting investors. You know that every discussion with Saakashvili starts from him saying that we need to create conditions for investors. He is creating, but he sees this sabotage at the level when the governor, having the prosecutor who understands him, having the militiaman who's from his team, they can do nothing. They call militia, the major arrives and says, so what? Any questions? One more question to Oleksandr. You said that the best way to minimize falsification is to submit cases to the court, and you say that there's very low probability that the court will not be biased and will make the ruling right on time. I believe that the influence on the judicial system has been reduced. I will read one paragraph from the letter of the embassy of Estonia. Nevertheless, the company is concerned with the attempts to influence the investment climate, especially during election process. Mr. Saakashvili, we request your assistance to control the facts provided by Estonian investor, not to allow violation of election legislation before the local elections in Ukraine. And finally, the Embassy of Estonia is actively explaining to Estonian businessmen. They're talking on positive changes taking place in investment climate of Ukraine. Violating the procedures, that means if this problem continues, then Estonian businessmen will hardly continue invest any money. Answering your question, I believe that we have made it really public, and we should get the lawful resolution ruling of the court. So we hope that this process will be transparent. Thank you. This is the end of our press briefing. All the best to you.
Колеги, наш наступний прес-брифінг о 12:30 полковник